Hey guys, what's up, and welcome to episode 55, All In. For those who don't know, my name is Angie Roll. I am the host of loveinspiry podcast, and our mission over here is to build more powerful, transparent, and durable relationships. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you stick around and join the conversation of All In. So for those, and of course, if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you share this with somebody who may need to hear this. So for those who don't know, I was a young wife. I was 18 years old when I got married, to be exact. And I didn't have the opportunity to live with my boyfriend before marriage because obviously, we were young. It was just not going to happen. It was not going to fly. And he's my now husband now. But even if I was older, I still wouldn't have been able to live with him because, of course, it just wouldn't have been appropriate because he was a preacher. He still is a preacher. It just wouldn't have been right. It wouldn't have flown. Like, no. And I spoke on this particular situation before where I talked about how I don't necessarily believe the sin lies in moving in together, right? But the sin lies in the sexual experience that happens in, before the marriage or whatever. Now, disclaimer. This is a judgment-free zone, okay, guys? But I'm also a Christian, and I'm just stating the obvious and the facts. But I definitely won't act like you're going to hell because you had sex before marriage. So I just want to throw that disclaimer out there because I don't want anybody coming for me saying I'm being holier than thou or judgmental or whatever the case may be. But when I speak of going all in on this podcast means moving in together, sharing bills and finances, cooking and cleaning for your significant other. You're dang near married, but you're not. And we need to discuss the elephant in the room, which is moving in together for all the wrong reasons. So I've been trying to lately make sure that my podcasts are full of facts and not just me talking ish. So you will see a lot of research in this podcast today, and I just wanted to point that out. So this is from the facts that I am going to be talking to you guys about today. It's from Pew Research Center, analysts of the National Survey of Family Growth. So if you want to check that out, you can. But about 4 in 10 cohabiting adults cite finances, that's 38%, and convenience, 37%, as major reasons they moved in with their partner. By comparison, just 13% of married adults cite finances and 10% cite conveniences as major reasons why they decided to get married. So obviously, moving in for all the wrong reasons is a legit setup for disaster. And convenience and finances for your reasoning to move in with your significant other, the ultimate no-no. See, I think the thing is, the most important thing people miss is, and they don't understand is, finances is a leading cause for divorce in general. And finances, they come and go, right? You can lose your job causing issues. And when you are just boyfriend and girlfriend living together, you're kind of less likely to fight through that because there's really no strings attached. There's no attachment for you to even care. It's like, oh, we're just boyfriend and girlfriend. Let's done deal. Whereas when you're married, it's more steps that you got to go through. But if you want to live together, you have to have pure intentions, meaning that you have known each other for some time and you have intention of getting married one day. Living together and living with somebody in general, it's a different ball game, guys. It's not a sleepover. It's a different beast waking up and having somebody in your space and your area, and you have to take on all of them and who they are. And especially when you're used to living by yourself and used to doing things how you want things done. Convenience will not sustain your relationship, period. Okay? I want to get on to another fun fact. Among adults ages 18 to 44, 59% have lived with an unmarried partner at some point in their lives, while 50% have ever been married. And this is according, again, to the Pew Research. So among adults ages 18 to 44, 59% have lived with an unmarried partner at some point, while 50% have ever been married. So does it lead to marriage for some? Absolutely, yes. But for most, no, it does not. In fact, on average, researchers found that couples who cohabited before marriage had a 33% higher chance of divorcing than couples who moved in together after the wedding ceremony. So, I wanted to talk about why I think this is the case. And of course, at the end of this, I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask yourself before you decide to move in with your significant other, things that you guys should be discussing and talking about so you can make an informed and educated, the right decision for you. So, why do I think this is the case of divorce being higher among, or what was the exact quote? 33 couples who cohabited before marriage had a 33% higher chance of divorcing than couples who moved in together after the wedding ceremony. Why do I think this is the case? 1, you've left no build up for the marriage. If you do everything in the dating period, what is there left to do with married? You kind of get set into a boring relationship. You kind of get into a routine. When you live together, you start to develop a system and a routine. And sometimes mundane things can cause your relationship to get bored. You have to leave some kind of build up in your relationship. That's why it's kind of like baby steps. You don't want to do everything in one sitting because then you'll get bored with the task. You complete a job too soon, if you're at work and you complete your job too soon and you have nothing left to do, you get bored. You start nitpicking things and different things of that sort. So you want to leave some type of buildup. It became more of a business relationship, and after a while that won't last. So sometimes you cohabitate with your significant other and you're not married, it can become a business relationship. And this is the thing of, is marriage just a piece of paper or whatever the case may be? But you don't want your relationship to turn into a business relationship. You don't want it to turn into something where it's you're kind of just like not enthused to be in that relationship. You're kind of just settling in and just, like I said, mundane. It's just whatever. We're here today. We come home. We eat dinner together. We may watch a movie and then we go to bed. You don't want to get settled into that aspect of your relationship. Then the last reason, number 4, you started your journey for all the wrong reasons, as we talked about earlier. Divorce happens because people are not building a solid foundation. You, like earlier in the research that has shown, a lot of people are moving in together for convenience. And like I said, convenience is not going to sustain you. They're moving in because it's easier on the budget. And that's not any good reason to move in with somebody. Like I said, because when it's a different ball game. And this is what I wanted to harp on with going all in this podcast. I think ultimately going all in delays the potential for marriage. I think if that's what you choose. Now, of course, if you are a person that you just are okay with being boyfriend and girlfriend or being partners in life, then that's something completely different. But more so for people that aspire to be married one day, if you move in, I think it kind of puts marriage on the back burner, because especially in a man's eyes, and I've said this multiple times over and over again, in a man's eyes, is why buy the cow when you're getting the milk for free? In their eyes, if you're cooking and cleaning and doing all these wifely duties for them, what's the purpose in walking down the aisle at that point? So marriage now becomes not the focal point, it's just getting by and just living together. And that might not be something that you're okay with. And this is what I talked about in the last podcast about making sure that you're not letting things just fester. That when you move in with somebody, make sure that you know, and we'll talk about this later, what the end goal is. Most Americans, the 69% say cohabitation is acceptable even if a couple doesn't plan to get married. So this is probably new age couples that have said this. A lot of people feel like it's okay to cohabitate when you are not married or you don't plan to get married. And I think a lot of this stems from people not having quality relationships to model after. The quality of relationships have gone down so bad that people think that marriage, we might as well just move in together and be partners in life, because marriages are not great nowadays. People don't see quality marriages anymore. So that's why people think, oh, this is a business arrangement, or oh, it's not going to last. And people go in with a negative mindset, as opposed to every relationship is different. Everybody's relationship is not going to give what your relationship is. My grandparents' relationship is different than me and Nate's. My in-laws' relationship is different than me and Nate's. But they're still quality relationships, right? Just in different realms, different people. And I think if we started having more quality relationships, people would be aspire to get married. They would be excited to get married and find that one. Another 16% say it's acceptable, but only if couples plan to marry. I would rather you figure each other out than get married and have to divorce. I would really rather you just move in and say, you know what, I really don't like this person. I don't want to go the distance with him. I don't see longevity for us. You discover all of that in moving in with somebody. You discover, like I said, you're up close and personal in their space. They're in your space. So you're seeing things that you didn't see when you were just dating and you were having those little sleepover nights and everything was cute and hunky-dory and you loved each other. You're seeing different things. Like I said, I would rather you move in, discover that, than to get married and have to go through this divorce. And if you have children involved, have them have to go through this divorce. Another 14% say it's never acceptable for an unmarried couple to live together. Now, these people are probably your diehard Christians, the Christians that's like, you're going to hell, if you move in and you're not married, whatever the case may be. Like I said, this is a no judgment free zone. I am about to give you some pros of moving in with each other. But again, like I said earlier in the opening, I feel like the sin lies more so in premarital sex as opposed to moving in together. My husband and I did a podcast on this before about the temptation of it, right? You don't, if you know something is a sin, you're not going to purposely put yourself in the predicament to sin. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is when you move in with somebody, okay, eventually you know what's going to happen. Y'all going to get down, you know? So, but, you know, some people it doesn't happen at all. Some people are truly dedicated to having sex after marriage. It's not a lot of people, but there are a lot of people out there that's holding true and sticking to that. I'm not going to have sex until I'm married, which is fine. But the pros of living with somebody, and I'm talking about you have intention, right? You're not doing it just for convenience and finances. Again, I'm never saying it's okay to live with somebody because it's going to be convenient for you or because of financial gain or whatever the case may be. That's not a good reason to live together. It's not going to last. The pros, you can truly get to know each other. I've been harping on that. I'm not going to elaborate on that because I've been harping on that this whole podcast. When you live with somebody, you really truly get to know who they are. You can build more trust, right? So when you're up in somebody's space, I'm not saying that you have the opportunity to go through their phone and check out what they have going on, but you build more trust because there's more communication going on, right? There's more access to this person, and the development of trust is a lot easier because you're seeing this person one-on-one. Trust should be a part of your foundation. So this is an excellent way to build trust and to open that line of communication of, okay, you have this other person here, you have this other person in the house that you need to worry about. You need to, kind of let them know, like, hey, babe, I'm going to be out such and such, don't wait up for me, whatever the case may be. It's an excellent way to build trust. Not the only way, I'm not saying that, but it is an excellent way to build trust. You can foster all the things you need to have a successful relationship. So again, we're talking about fostering communication. We're talking about growing together. We're talking about learning how to budget money together. All of these things you need to grow your relationship into what it needs to be. You were able to do that when you were living one-on-one with somebody. Sometimes when somebody's away from you, I notice with me and my husband, when I'm away, a lot of the times we do not do our budget when I'm out of town. It's kind of like a free-for-all, and that's because it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Like, we're not on our normal routine. We're not fostering the things that we know to do. And so I know that sometimes when you're not within the person's Not standing right in front of them and saying, hey, we got to go over this budget. Like, we got to do this now. Sometimes it's just like out of sight, out of mind. The drawback here is when you move in, most people aren't purposeful in doing these things. This is the problem with all these pros. So yes, all this magnificent stuff can be done, right? But a lot of people are not purposeful and tactful in making sure that they are truly getting to know each other, that they are building trust. And it's not just because necessarily they got into it for convenience, but you're just not thinking in the aspect of, okay, let me take the time to nurture my relationship the way that it needs to be nurtured. That's a drawback to this, is just not being tactful. So if you're trying to move in, make sure that you are being purposeful in building the trust, making sure that you're communicating with one another, making sure that you're talking about personal goals, that you're talking about relationship goals, that you're all of these things that you need to sustain your relationship. Ultimately, it's not my job or anybody else's job to tell you when you are ready to move in. You have to make that decision for you and your significant other. So I wanted to leave you guys with some questions to ask yourself before you decide to move in with somebody and commit to this new thing. And the first question is, what does a successful relationship look like to you? If you have no idea what a successful relationship looks like to you, you won't know how to be tactful in moving in together. You have to be able to define what a successful relationship looks like to you, which looks as a couple together. What do you want out of your relationship? You want trust, you want respect. All this will help you be able to successfully move in together and focus on the intention of if your goal is to get married. Number 2, what kind of goals do you want to establish? This is about understanding. The goal is to not be roommates, right? But the goal is to learn more, to see how invested you guys can be in marriage. Can you guys go longevity? You want to know why we are moving in together. What is the purpose? And again, it should not be convenience or finances. It should be, I have an intent to love this person until death do us part. Let's see what this is about. Let's see how we can merge together before we actually merge together and see if this can really, really work. I want to move in with my partner because I feel like one day I am going to marry him. I feel like we are going to be great in our marriage. I feel like we're going to be great parents. We both have a lot in common. We have built a strong foundation. We have trust with one another. We have good communication. These are all reasons why you should move in with your significant other. What kind of goals do you want to establish? Again, a question that you need to be talking about amongst each other. Number 3, because finances is so important, and if anybody knows my story, they know that finances was one of those things for me that kind of could have killed my relationship. So you want to talk about how you're going to tackle finances. You want to talk about, before you get married, remember these are questions before you get married. What are the domestic expectations of living with one another? Listen, I'm not finna be cleaning up your clothes off the ground. I'm not going to be cleaning up your dishes that you're leaving in the living room. This is not what this is about. You need to be able to establish and answer these questions as a couple together before you decide to step into the relationship, before you decide to step in to this marriage into moving together, not the relationship or marriage, but before you decide to step in moving in together. So these are definitely things that you want to think about, especially the domestic expectations, right? Because that can cause a lot of confrontation. So today we just gave some facts on living in together. I gave you some pros. I gave you, my number 1 con of that. So next week on the podcast, this was a quick episode, but it's giving you perspective on things to think about for those people that are preparing to move in together. Is this something that you really, really, truly want to do? And understanding that, again, you should not do this because it's more convenient for you. A lot of the times when you do stuff because it's more convenient for you, you cause a headache and frustration for yourself in the future. It's kind of like, I was thinking about something, it just slipped my brain, but again, that's what I was gonna say. It's kind of like if you buy something and you're being cheap about buying it, now you have to go back and get something new because you were being cheap, and now you done spent more money. And it's the same concept here. You need to be purposeful, and you need to make sure that you have the right tools and the right foundation before you decide to move in with somebody. It's a different beast. It's a different ball game, and you learn a lot about somebody. And you learn, and the crazy part is not just do you learn good things, but you learn all the negative things. And sometimes those negative things can be so overwhelming that you kind of just like, oh, I can't really deal with this person. Now, dealing with moving in with somebody, that's a different conversation, right? Learning how to coexist in the space that you're in together. We all know about compromise. We all know about communication. And I think the biggest thing we need to understand is communicating what we need and understanding our expectations from one another. That's what's going to be the deciding factor if moving in together works for your relationship. How are you going to show up and prepare yourself for move-in day and not just taking it lightly like, oh, we know each other. Da, 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 da. You don't truly know somebody until you move in with them. You don't truly know if you like a person until you move in with them and you see them when they wake up and they got a nasty attitude. My husband can tell you I got a nasty attitude when I wake up in the morning, when I really need to be lifting my hands to Jesus, thanking him that I'm alive, I can see, and I got my hands and my legs and I can walk and talk and all that stuff. I am not the best person to talk to. And I've always been like that. Not the best person to talk to when I wake up. No. But you learn these things. And so I just wanted to share my thoughts on that and just prepare people and help people understand that it's not a decision that you should just make loosely. You really truly need to think about it, and don't be selfish in your decisions when you're thinking about it. All right. So next week on the podcast, we're talking about private versus secret relationships. We're going to end the month off with a little, kind of lighthearted show. But again, this season in the podcast, I want to make sure that I'm being purposeful. It seems to be the word of the show. That I'm being tactful in, how I'm showing up and just bringing facts and understanding. So I will bring some facts about private and secret relationships and the good and bad of that. But make sure you tune in. And again, if you like us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Again, for somebody who needs to hear this, if you're listening on the podcast, send this to a friend of yours. And today's show's quote is, convenience will not sustain your relationship. It's not going to sustain your relationship. So if you're moving in purely because of convenience, or even just a little bit of convenience, somewhere along the line, something is going to intervene, and convenience is going to be thrown out the window. So that should not be the number one reason that you move in with your significant other, even if it's just a little bit. So guys, thank you all for listening to today's show. If you're watching, if you're listening, whatever you're doing, thank you so much. And I hope to see you guys all next Friday as we talk everything love and relationships. See you guys all in the next one.